We are we are live as always. Not financial advice for educational purposes only. Housekeeping is out of the way. I want to run through all the indices, gold, silver, oil, and some of the stocks that I've called. Now you're going to see a different view here today. Usually I've got my monthly on the left side of my screen here and my weekly over here. That's what I do with my paid subscribers. And I encourage the people that have bought my indicator and put it on their screens to do the same thing. Monthly, weekly, great way to trade, very profitable way to trade, makes trading very easy. I'm going to take you out, give you a bigger picture. So on the left side of my screen today, I've got yearly pivot levels, which are the biggest pivot levels that I generate, okay, off of this program. And over here, I've got quarterly, which is kind of the second biggest, okay? I want to look at where we are in a much bigger picture and what we can potentially expect moving forward based off of this picture. All right, let's talk about it. The NASDAQ, we knew this was the war sell-off, and we knew this pivot was very important, okay? And you can see how they correlate over here. We've got pivot issues. Over here, we've got pivot issues on the yearly and the quarterly, okay? And this is for your much bigger moves, okay? Much bigger moves. We have this weird bleed because of the war that was with Iran, and then the MOU, and everything was good and fine and dandy, and everybody's getting on peace. So what happens? First and foremost, we regain this quarterly pivot. If you had to pick one thing for me to teach you from these levels is, hey, I have these lines are red for a reason, okay? This pivot, these are all targets. Blue and yellow are targets, support and resistance. These matter a ton. Okay, that's our pivot. Bullish above, bearish below until we reach targets. That's that simple on anything that we look at, so keep that in mind. We regain pivot for 4 days. These are both 5-year, 1-day charts. You can see the stats up here that this produces for you if you purchase this and put it on your stuff. And I will help you do all that and teach you about it. But you can see up here, I've only got it on 5 years, so we're analyzing 22 quarters, and it gives you stats for where we finish on each pivot based on what's going on. We hold pivot, okay? Hold pivot. We get up here and we hold for 4 days. That pivot is at 23,890 roughly. For that quarter, we hit a 30,975. So let me say it again. Let's just call it 24,000 to 30,975. 6,000 point runner if you are buying for one simple reason. Hey, we're above that quarterly pivot. Unless we get below that, I'm going to ride at least the first target, which is about 2,000 points. From there, I can make decisions on how we interact with those targets. One day we run into it. The next day we open right on top of it, take off. Same thing here. One day we get above, we retest, we go higher. And like I tell everybody, just because this R3, which is our biggest overshoot, we only close above it 9% of the time. Once we break any pivot to the upside or down, they are support or resistance until proven otherwise. We break above it, it's support the next day, and it goes higher, okay? That easy. I know there's a 91% chance that we don't close up here for the quarter over 5 years, but we did in this quarter. So there's one of your 9% chances that played out. Yearly, get above the yearly pivot at 25,478. Almost make first target R1. That's a huge move. We missed R1 by about what, 200 points there, 175 points. Pay attention. These targets really matter. Where are we now? We are kind of in no man's land, except for you kind of have left shoulder head. Is this going to make a right shoulder to look higher? Inverse head and shoulders, possibly. Well, the possibility that I would look for is if we break above 30,505, why would I be bearish? Okay. And then, like I said, my paid subscribers jump down to your monthly and weekly, and that's how we're going to play it, because I'm not going to sit here and wait for another week to make a decisions personally. If you're that type of trader, get my levels, put them on your screen, and you can make some great decisions that way. But that's what I would be looking at. Resistance, 30,505, 75 until proven otherwise. We get up there and break it and hold it. We look higher. And these two targets aren't far off. 33,647 versus 33,448 would be your first upside target if we can break above this pivot and hold it, okay? We break above this pivot, you start looking target to target. You've got about 500 points. As long as you break above this, it's off to the races, okay? Hard to be bearish here just based on the fact that we've had the flush, the hold of S2 on the quarterly pivots, and now we go higher. And in 5 years, we know that S2 holds 90.9% of the time over 5. If I flip that out to 10 years, let me just show you how this works. If I go to 10 years, it has held 92.9% of the time right here. And held means for the quarter we've closed above it. All right. So keep that in mind. I will leave that bigger stat up over here just so we have it. Yes, S&P, let's look. And this is kind of my first time reviewing that. This is what I do on the weekends, though. I haven't went out for a bigger look in a minute. I was posting about NVIDIA and Avgo. Microsoft, I think, is another one. Maybe Google, I can't remember, but I was using yearly targets on that, and we'll see how they played. I think they played pretty well, but because I seen Avgo was up. I remember that pivot was around 375, I think, somewhere in there. But we'll look, and I'll tell you about it. I seen it was trading 4.25 the other day. NVIDIA is one I've had eyes all over, so I know it's been doing good. Same thing with the S&P. We have the bleed from the war. We regain the quarterly pivot. Last quarter, we rip higher. How many points is that? A bunch. 65, let's call it 6,600, all the way up to 7,639. Do the math. That's a lot of S&P points, 1,000 points. Depending on how you're trading it, that 1,000 points, you spell that M-O-N-E-Y, okay? Because it's that easy to use the pivots. The breakdown didn't quite reach S1 on the yearly, break above the pivot on the yearly. Haven't made it to R1. Now, what is everybody's bullish target for this year? 8,000. What is the first target on the year? 79.77, 7,977. What is R1 over here for the quarter? 8,051. Do they use these levels? I don't know, but it makes sense, right? They say 8,000 and we are close. And like I said, I have these levels from January 1 over here is when I populate these. They don't change. This quarter populated July 1st. They don't change. They stay right where they are. They never change. When I take it down to a monthly chart, I put those levels out at the beginning of every month. The weeklies come out at the beginning of every week. They don't move. So we've got our new August targets, which have been working out well. I put that out to my paid subscribers just a few minutes ago. And all the resistances that we are hitting currently are levels on our charts. Okay, so we know based off of those levels, if we break above them and hold, we have a green light. If they become more resistance, we break down, we know our downside targets. So S&P, everybody's looking at 8,000. Here's what I always say about targets that everybody's looking at. The whole talking head world says 8,000 from anybody you want to find to anybody you want to listen to. Okay, that's great. One of two things always happens. We either A, never get there, or B, we blow through it. So just be aware of that. Everybody's always looking for a downside target to buy, never get there. Takes off before. Everybody's always looking for a top to call. Typically, it blows through it. So just be aware. We've got our targets, and we know based off of these targets, if we get above them and hold, we know our next targets, 83.15 and 84.31. And like I said, we're going to be playing our monthly and weekly every day next week. So we will know what we have going. That's the S&P. Let's look at the O Dangerous Dow. I call it dangerous. It's not. Here we are. And I didn't even know this. The Dow, sell off. The world's ending. Hold pivot. Last quarter, same story. Rips higher. Get above pivot. Where do we run out of gas? 54,884. 54,884. What was our first target here on the yearly? 54,613. We poked above it one day, closed below it, resistance the next day, resistance, can't get above it. Very important level, 54,613. This close on this candle the day we poked above it was 54,555. So we closed about 55 points below it on a 55,000 point index. I'm not sure that we can pick targets any better. Okay, keep that in mind. So that is the Dow. We can look at the Russell, even though the RUT is not something that I trade personally. Everybody likes the NASDAQ, me included. And I've got to change that chart. So let's just go to IWM because the Russell is weird about populating. This is basically like the SPY of the S&P. This is where you can actually buy shares, but targets are basically the same as far as how they're going to interact and what's going to work and what's not. Sitting on top of the pivot over here, 299.93. That looks like a high of 303 was put in 3 days ago. That's on a 10-year chart. So that is the high of the Russell, holding the pivot at 299.93. As long as that holds, first target 326. This is a little more cumbersome over here when you look at it because we are at R2. All right, let's get some data on the Russell here so we can see how many times we've closed above R2 on a, let's go to 15 years. Sometimes TOS can be a little cranky. I didn't restart it before I went. Okay, so we're analyzing 16 years. It says right here at the top of my screen. Okay, my indicator gives you all this. Buy it. I will help you set it up on your TOS. You buy it through my Substack channel, and you can populate this and study till you're exhausted like I do because you love it. All right, here we go. 301.11. We're having a little trouble here. Had trouble here, right? Look at how beautiful that played. Break pivot, first target resistance. Bleed off. Look over here. Bleed off to where? Quarterly pivot. Where do we run into resistance? R3. What does it do? Come off. What does it hold? R2. Okay. These targets, can they get any better? My goodness gracious. All right. I'm not trying to, it's just if I don't know how anybody in two worlds would trade without this and think that they have something jiving except for guessing and luck and sitting through pain. I don't know. Anyway, we are at R2. We have closed above R2 for the year. Now there's a lot of year left or enough, 75% of the time over a 16-year period. So there's only about a 25% chance that we close up here. We have never, write this down, take a picture. We have never in 16 years closed above this level, the R3 overshoot on IWM. That's not me saying that. That is the stats telling me because it goes back and looks at all this. And last year's R3 was 284.22. We didn't close above that. And you go back and you can look and we've never closed above whatever that level is for the year. 315.01. We have never, and I repeat right here, right here. Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm lying to you. I was looking at S3. My fault. That's down here. 6.3% chance we close above this. Disregard everything I've said. 16 years, we got a 93% chance that we close below 315.01. We've got about a 25% chance. So if you do the math, 75 to 93, when we get here, we've only got a 6.3% chance that we close beyond it right here. R3 overshoot, 6.3 out of 16 years. So I'll just call it a 93% chance we close below that level. Pay attention. Pay attention. We're getting in the upper atmosphere. Not to say that it can't happen. It's happened 6% of the time. All right. 315.01. I'd mark these levels because they're important. So in my mind, automatically what I do is say 75, 80, 85, 90, 93, because as we get higher, that percentage will get lower that we are going to close above that level, if that makes sense. I don't want to try to confuse anybody. Okay, that's your indices. Let's talk about oil. I haven't looked at any of this in a minute, so we are doing it live together. Oil got above that yearly overshoot by a big way. 15 years, many times did it close beyond that? 6.3% also. Reached it 12.5. Above, only closed 6.3. Where are we now? Look at these beautiful pivot hold here. And that was your next leg up to R2 on the quarterly. Okay. I mean, do the levels work? You tell me. Like, well, why 92.19? I don't know. That's what my calculations tell me. I didn't mean being smart. That's that being smart. Let's see, 93 or 94.56, almost the top. But like I said, this was the top so far. Where did we find support? If you're wanting to buy oil, Dave, where do I buy oil? Well, that is a perfect retest of R1 at 74.39. What was the low of the candle? Let's look. If I can hover right on that one. Seems to be a little weird. Low was 74.57. That's the one beside it. Hold on. Let me get right to you. Here we are. 74.24. We missed it by about 15 cents. It overshot us by 15 cents, and now we are trading 77.08. If that breaks, more downside. More downside. If that does not get going and find first target at 84.47, you're in trouble. I know that on my monthly levels, there's a big level we are watching. I will not say that here. If you want that, I think I charge like $10 to $15 a month to have that. Come check it out, and we will have a monthly and weekly breakdown that matters for next week and for the rest of the month. Amazing, amazing targets. When it holds pivot, that's why when you get below pivot, you are bearish. And this applies to any chart that we look at. When you get above pivot, you are bullish. Above pivot, you are bullish. Below pivot, you are bearish. 2 targets, okay? Doesn't matter if I'm looking at my one-day pivots that scalpers use that are subscribers, or if I'm looking at my monthly that I love or my weekly that I love that I use to scalp with. But any pivot we're looking at, that's how it works. Okay, gold. Oh, gold. Perfect buy over there on the yearly chart. Where's the bottom in gold? Nobody knows. Well, this pretty much knew. 39.33. The low of this candle was 39.55. Missed it by 20 points. Okay. S2. How much has that held on a yearly? We've closed above S2 over the last 15 years, 16 years analyzed 93.7% of the time. So when we get down here, and this is how we use all, and I produce stats on all of this stuff. It does it automatically for me. I don't do it, but we get here. Do you think it's a decent opportunity to buy right down here as close as you can get, with that being your bull bear line at 39.33? I think gold is a buy, but where, I don't know. Well, I know this for sure. On a yearly basis for 16 years, we've closed above this level 93.7% of the time. You think that might be a good place to buy some and either hold it or scalp it? Yeah, can't get much better. Here's your pivot on the quarterly. Choppity chop, good retest. 40.25. Now we're trading 44.01. You bought it at 39, you're trading 44.01. Good stuff on gold. I would be paying attention to 4,500 right here to see if it gets above that. Like I said, our monthly and weekly is quite a bit tighter than that, and that's what we will be watching over there. Silver. Where do I buy silver? 62 was a good buy. 62 was a good buy both times. Okay. 62 breaks. Where's my next good buy? 55.54. We hold it perfect. Hold it perfect. And now we're trading $63. $8 higher on silver. Above the pivot. Do we get a good retest of this pivot and then go higher? Or do we roll over? 62 is going to be a huge level just because support right here, right here. If it holds, you look higher. If it breaks, look out below. Let's jump over. I know that NVIDIA, because I've been talking about it forever. Hey, the closer you can buy it to 189.84, the better off you're going to be. Well, what was the low of this candle? And I said that back here. Wherever you can buy it, right here. It's been one of my favorite picks to buy. The low was 189.80. We wicked below that pivot by 4 cents. What was the low on this candle right here? 190.01, 190. No. Yep, and a penny. That's where the close was actually, and the low. So it closed on the low of the day. What caught it? The pivot. What does it do after that? We're trading 223. Was talking about NVIDIA for a while on this yearly target on a video I done, I don't know, 3 or 4 months ago, saying, hey, if it gets here, this is where you buy NVIDIA. And this is why. Not because I think anything, except I have this big red line that says pivot, and I know that that's utterly important. Avgo is another one. I don't even have it on my list, but I know when I was reviewing all the SMH stocks, that I said, hey, Avgo is the same. If the closer you get it to 352.78, the better off you're going to be. This low was 356, missed it by $4. Okay, a little less than $4, but right at $4. Now we're trading 427. These major levels work. If you're looking for optimal buys, optimal places to deploy capital, pay attention to these. Let me know that's what you're wanting to see, and I will get you this information. Google, I think for some reason Google's in my mind. Yeah, that's why. 316.19. Hey, the closer you can get it to 316.19, the better off you're going to be. And let me maximize this chart just because it's so, it just can't get much better. And this doesn't matter if this is my monthly chart, my weekly chart, my 1-day pivots, my 4-hour pivots that populate every 4 hours, my quarterly, whatever it is. Like, this is how you play them. It's as simple as it can be. Break pivot, retest, fell. What do we look for? First target 274.34. That was a buy. Where does it go? Up to gaps on top of pivot, holds. Where was the very top? 408.61. What is our R1? 405.47. I'm going to put out just a video about that because it's just that tight and that good. Bleeds from 405, 408.61, all the way to 316.90. What grabs it? The pivot. Look, the low of this candle was 314.90. It went $2 below. What's it do the next day? The low of that pivot is that candle is 317.32. Right on top of it. And now we went all the way back to 383.78 from 316. It doesn't get any better or easier to make decisions. Like I said, you can turn everything off, turn off all the noise. Iran, the yen intervention, the jobs, the Fed are going to hike. They're not going to hike. You're like a dog chasing its tail at that point. You're just running in circles, brother, guessing. Don't do that. Hey, I've got these levels that matter. Use them to your advantage. So that's Google. I know that Avgo, I'll take you back to that chart because when they had earnings, I told everybody, hey, like we are hitting into first. This was where I believe earnings right here was the earnings candle. I said, hey, we're getting into our profit taking. And I think this day it got above, this day it spiked on earnings. And then look what it did. It went all the way back to the pivot, 352.78. If you're long Avgo, 468.15 was a spot to take profit. When it's trading 495, you're thinking, man, I've missed the run. But then when you're buying it at 352, you're saying, thank goodness I paid attention to at least know that I needed to take some profit here because that's a major level. What do? We gap it and come all the way back to pivot, which was pivot, resistance, resistance. Where do you buy it? Support, support. Like I said, these come out January 1st. I don't change these levels. They don't move. I've put out several videos. If you go back through my Substack, You can see all that say, hey, this is where you should be interested. I believe Microsoft was the other one that I really followed on these larger levels. Let me show you why. This 363 was a major area of importance. Break below it one day, get back on top, target, wick above, jump up there nice and pretty, all the way back down to S2. And now what do? We hold S2 at 363. I love when they do this. It's like they know the lines are on the chart. What do? They consolidate it and they gap it. Where do they gap it to? Right above S1. They retest S1. Now where are we sitting? On top of the pivot. That's really good. That's really, really good. Let's go back to the quarterly view. Hey, here's something that's interesting. We're above the R3 overshoot on Microsoft for the quarter. In 10 years, how many times have we closed beyond R3 for the quarter? Quarter ends 9:30. We've closed above that 4.8% of the time. 10 years worth of data tells me, let me see if I can get 20 or if Toss is going to be cranky about it. Let me see. I'm getting it. 20 years, we've closed beyond it 9.8% of the time. So what I'm telling you right now is you've got about a 90% chance that we do not close the quarter above 481.61 on Microsoft. Keep that in mind. Understand where we are and why we are there. Could this go to 700? Absolutely. The market will do what it wants. And I tell everybody, everybody's like, hey, what about Iran, the yen intervention, the Fed's possibly hiking with inflation, but now we've had the bad jobs. I've played the market long enough to know a few things. One, it loves to climb the wall of worry. And two, it will matter. These things will matter. You know, the straits closed. We could pour concrete across the Strait of Hormuz, put Hoover Dam over there, whatever you want to do. And apparently it doesn't matter, right? Huge talking point, but hadn't affected oil. Doesn't matter. It will matter when they want it to matter and not until that point. Do not guess. Like, oh man, bad news is stacking up. We got to be near top. Don't guess. Do not do that. Play these levels and let them work for you and understand where resistance will be. Here's a great quarterly resistance. Does it get any better? The R3 overshoot. Where does it hold? R1. Once we break above it, it's support until proven otherwise. Where does it finally reject? The overshoot. And where does it go? Tumbling down. What does it hold? The pivot on the quarter. Got a few wicks below it. This would have been the scariest candle, right back on top of it the next day. All the way up here where we are now. Use these levels to your advantage. Let me help you. Like I said, I put out the monthly and weekly on gold, silver, oil, NQ, ES every Sunday at 5 p.m. Central Time. That's when they repopulate on my screen as far as the weekly. The monthlies come out once at the beginning of the month. Then I do a lot of reviews and talk about where we are and what we have going on. We can look at SMH because that's been very, very hot topic. And look, SMH, massive run, historic run. Where did it run from? It wasn't a random spot. It was from the pivot. Every time it got to the pivot, it was a buy, a buy, a buy. Look how high we are. R3 overshoot, 15 years worth of data tells me we reach it 12.5% of the time. We close beyond it 6.3% of the time. SMH, which is NVIDIA, Avgo, A-Lab, Taiwan Semiconductor, all those put into a bucket. And instead of betting on the individual horse, if you're buying SMH, you're betting on all the horses doing well, like a team. We're betting on the team versus the individual horse. We're betting on the Bulls to win, or whoever your favorite basketball, baseball, the Cardinals, shows my Midwestern roots, the Bills, because my boys love them. When you're buying SMH, you're betting on the team. When you are buying NVIDIA, you're saying, hey, Michael Jordan's going to score 30 points this game. That's who I want to Doesn't matter what else happens. I think Michael Jordan's the man. He's going to do his thing. Okay. If you want to bet on the team instead of the individual stock, SMH is the semiconductor ETF. It's a bucket of ETFs or of stocks. And right now we know without a shadow of a doubt, we only close up here 6.3% of the time. Can it happen? Yeah, sure can. Last year, we got just a little short. We closed above R2, but we didn't close above the overshoot. Keep that in mind. That kind of tells you where we are on a bigger picture. And look at how beautiful these buys were off of the pivot on at 368, went all the way to 670, 300 points. Right now, we're not above the quarterly pivot, and we are trading in the atmosphere. We reached this 12.5% of the time out of 15 years analyzed. We reached this level. That would have been this level last year. This year, we're referencing this level. We only close past that, above it, 6.3% of the time. So 93% chance we'll round her down. 93% chance we close below 574. Let's come back in December and see where we are. Come back and let's update it, because I will be. Let's see how it does. Is this going to be one of those 6% chances? Could be. Could it be extended? Sure. How do I know? Well, if it breaks below 574, bull bear line. Right now, you're above it. Bull bear line, 574. This 580 is going to be very important, and I referenced that Friday in my video. 580 quarterly S1. Can we hold it and start looking up here? Very possible. Or do we break it and start looking down here? Very possible. But I know this level is what matters right now. And then, of course, our monthly and weekly. On top of that, we draw an amazing picture. Any Tesla fans out there? I don't know, but I'll cover it just because I know it's had some movement that's been problematic. I'm going to have to downsize this chart. It doesn't like my 20 years on Tesla on the quarter. There we go. Can't hold the pivot, breaks it, retest, dies. That's simple enough. Not holding the pivot, not a bullish look. Finds support. Back to where? Pivot. Can't break the pivot and has continued to have downside pressure. If you can buy Tesla at 270, would you? That'd be your first major decision. Okay. If it can hold 326, maybe, but it just looks rough. Don't count Elon out, though. The guy just makes money. All right, I'm going to let you go. That's enough. I hope I've helped somebody. If you want more information, send me a message on Substack. Like I said, if you have Thinkorswim desktop, which that means you got to download Thinkorswim to either a laptop or a desktop computer. It will not work on a tablet or on an iPhone. This indicator will not. I can give you this setup exactly with the momentum candles, walk you through how to use it, and then you can go back like I am. I've already put out a monthly update for my subscribers. I wanted to show big picture stuff, just go live and talk about targets and things that have happened and how well they work. You can go back and study like I do all the time. It's that simple, and it's enjoyable to me. And you just got 5 lines that you use to say, this is where we are and this is what my targets are. All right, with that, as always, we will talk soon.